Hello, fellow seekers. I hope everyone is doing well. I have been rotating between trials, and now it's time for me to do some more Hannah Payne for you Hannah Payne people. And so we're on day 5 now, and the prosecution is going to call a rebuttal witness, which is going to be one of the officers who interviewed or interrogated, or whichever you prefer to call it. And then I think that they're going to show a recording of that as well. And then we'll see what else. But let's go on and get with it. Might be taking a few minutes because they're getting the jury in and all that kind of stuff. But I think they should be calling the witness pretty soon. Judge Scott looks as beautiful and kind as ever. Hannah looks angry.
The jury, trust you had a good night. Just a reminder, I know it's been a long, arduous week, but when the court says 9 o'clock, we intend to begin at 9, and so just encouraging compliance with our time frames. Thank you. When we broke yesterday evening, the state was about to present rebuttal testimony, and so we're going to give the state an opportunity to do so and call its witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state calls Keon Hayward.
Hannah does not look happy about that.
And if you would please remain standing and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give before the court in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You can take your hand down and have a seat. If you would please make sure you're moved up and speaking into the microphone. If you would introduce yourself to the jurors, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Keon Hayward.
And could you spell your name for the court?
Keon, K-E-O-N, Hayward, H-A-Y-W-A-R-D.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed with Quick Trip Corporate in their division of protective services.
So working security at Quick Trip?
Correct.
And where are they based?
I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. And did you travel back here for this case?
Correct.
Back in May of 2019, how were you employed?
With the Clayton County Police Department.
And describe your experience in law enforcement, your experience in training that qualified you to work for the Clayton County Police Department.
I was certified through the basic law enforcement here in the state of Georgia, and I worked there as a uniformed police officer for 3 years, and then I worked in the Criminal Investigations Division and major felonies for 3 years.
So back in May of 2019, were you a detective assigned to work the case involving the defendant, Hannah Payne?
Correct.
And just to kind of go a little bit about through some of the things that you did for this case, did you respond to the actual scene where the shooting took place?
Correct.
And is that scene located in Clayton County?
Yes.
And did you also gather evidence?
Correct.
In this case, did you instruct certain witnesses to be interviewed?
Correct.
And photographs to be taken?
Yes.
Was one of the things that you did in this particular case was to conduct an interview of the defendant, Hannah Payne, at the Clayton County Police Department?
Yes.
And were you aware that she had been transported to the Clayton County Police Department in the back of a patrol vehicle and in handcuffs?
Yes.
Therefore, did you advise the defendant of her Miranda warnings?
Yes.
And did you do that using a written document?
Correct.
I approach the witness with what's been pre-marked as exhibit number 38.
You may.
Showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 38, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
With my name and signature, and the list of the Miranda rights also signed by Ms. Payne.
And that's a copy of the original. Is the original of these documents, is it always kept in records at the police department?
Yes.
And is there anything about State's Exhibit number 38 that has been altered or deleted in any way?
No.
State Tender, State's Exhibit number 38.
Any objection?
No objection, no.
And Ms. Lee, without objection.
And when you have a person that you're interviewing go through these rights, is it often that you have them put a time on what time they have signed this waiver?
Yes.
What time did the defendant sign her waiver, and what time did she begin speaking to you in this case?
At 8:47 p.m.
On the day that the incident occurred, May 7th?
Correct.
If you would, please indicate the first right that you advised the defendant that she had.
She was advised that she had the right to remain silent.
And did she initial next to that indicating her understanding?
Yes.
The second one?
Anything she said can and will be used against her in the court of law.
And did she initial that?
Correct.
Indicating her understanding? Yes?
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
And right number 3?
You have the right to you have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned.
Number 4?
And if you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish.
And number 5?
And if you decide at any time to exercise these rights, not answer any questions or make any statements.
And did she initial all 5 of those indicating her understanding of what she was being advised?
She did.
And the statement indicating I have been advised of my rights and I understand each of those rights, did she also provide her signature acknowledging that as well?
Yes.
There isn't any. In order to get the defendant to sign that Miranda waiver, was she threatened in any way?
No.
Was she promised anything?
No.
Was she offered any hope of benefit whatsoever?
No.
And based on your observations of the defendant on scene, did she appear to be signing that Miranda waiver freely and voluntarily?
Correct.
Did she appear, based on your observations, to understand the questions that were being asked and the things that were being discussed?
Yes.
And it also, based on your observations of the defendant, did she appear to understand why she was being interviewed?
Yes.
And once you advised the defendant of her rights, did she indicate to you that she would speak to you?
Correct.
During the course of that interview, did the defendant ever invoke her right to remain silent?
No.
Did the defendant ever invoke her right to counsel during the portion of your interview?
No.
And again, in order to speak to you, was the defendant threatened in any way?
Not at all, no.
And have you had an opportunity to re-watch the defendant's interview?
Yes.
And based on your observation of that, did the interview contain exactly your conversation with the defendant on May the 7th of 2019?
Yes.
Can you talk to the jury a little bit about how the interview room worked at the Clayton County Police Department back in May of 2019?
Yes, typically the interview will be comprised of the individual being questioned and 2 detectives will sit in and ask the questioning at a table. It is recorded, audio and visually recorded, and we have conversation and we ask questions in regards to the matters of the case and that person respond.
And the things that are being recorded, would you then have any ability to go in and change anything or anything like that?
No, I don't have any ability to alter that.
And have you watched various interviews that have taken place in those interview rooms?
Yes.
And are you aware that even though you can't alter it, sometimes the audio and the video are like a second off from each other
Yes.
when you watch it?
Yes.
And you this week had an opportunity to rewatch the interview, is that correct?
Correct.
At this time, the state is going to tender State's Exhibit number 39 with the exceptions of the things that we have discussed at the bench that we will place on the record. Any objections?
The same objections we had at the bench, we talked about it, about things that were being admitted, and I think we agreed that certain things would not be discussed, and as long as everybody follows those guidelines, I would have no objection.
Okay, admitted without objection.
Permission to publish, Judge?
Yes, you may publish.
And Judge, if I can just note, as we discussed, there are some times when the defendant is alone in the room that we're not just going to watch her sit there for 45 minutes.
Correct.
So we have, both sides have agreed to move it forward. And there are a couple of other sections that have been, by agreement, that aren't going to be admitted that we will move forward as well.
What does he think so funny,
Correct.
Attorney Smarmy? Hannah isn't laughing. Or is he just trying to look sarcastic? It's miserable.
One moment here. This is one of the moments where we're recording where she's alone. Okay.
Just make sure that there's a big gap that you describe how long the gap is.
I think she just based it off the record. But she kind of did.
I just moved the times. I can't tell you exactly where I stopped, but we're moving forward. She came into the room at 7:37:56. I think we watched 15 or 20 seconds, and we're moving forward to 7:53:40. Ish. It's actually 7:53:33, which is the closest I can get.
Oh, there she goes, that they were talking about. She's removing her acrylic nails. I know she said one or two are torn. Now she's doing it because they're bugging her out of anxiety, or she's hiding evidence. What do y'all think? Let me know below. I've never been a nail biter myself, so I mean, unless some of y'all probably are. I don't know. I can't say what y'all do, but I wouldn't be able to do that. Rick, that's just me though. Excuse me, guys. So sorry. Always allergies.
deposit at 7:57. Detective Hayward, for the record, the minutes that we've just watched, were you able to observe the defendant removing her own fingernails and putting fake fingernails and putting them in her pocket?
Correct.
And does she continue to do that until they're all gone?
Correct.
Judge, at this time we're going to move forward until 8:40, 8:30. The defendant is alone in the room until that time.
Okay.
Closest I got it was 8:40, 8:16. Okay.
Have you ever watched like on TV or anything like that? So you know before we talk to you, we're gonna read you some things out, okay? So if you understand what I'm saying, I just want you to initial decide what I'm reading, okay? How old are you, ma'am? 22. Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be used against you in court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have them present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statement. Read the next line for me, please.
I was in a process of my rights and I understand the issue of my rights.
If you understand what we just talked about here, what you just read, sign right there, and then the date and time. This is 5/7/19. It is 8:47. Before we get into anything, I just want to ask some background. They probably already have your information, but I don't. I'm just now feeding you for the first time. What's your name, ma'am?
Payne, P-A-N-N-A-H. Payne, P-A-Y-N-E.
What's your date of birth, ma'am?
0515-1997.
And your address? And a phone number, please.
470-512. It's a management company called Triship, Triship Partners, LLC.
Where is that?
The home office is in Hayesville.
Okay. So you're not work today? Okay. How long ago, what happened while you on that?
I had gotten off of work, I was going home, and I was coming down Clark turning left onto Forest Parkway. There was a semi that was in the lane to the right of me, and he was a little bit further in the intersection than I was, like the light was green for us. And out of nowhere, this guy came down through the intersection, and luckily I stopped barely in time, but he ran into the semi.
Because y'all were on Park Howell and you're trying to come out on the Forest Parkway. And
He came straight through.
the police traffic was like from 85 in Riverdale or from Riverdale?
From 85.
Okay, I got you. Okay, go ahead.
And so after I realized what had happened, I was able to go around him, and I pulled up on the sidewalk and I parked. When I called the police, I got out and I walked over to see if everyone was okay. I was talking to the truck driver and another witness who was also a police officer who saw everything happen. And the guy who was driving the truck ended up getting out and was just kind of like looking around like, well, what happened? And he said, someone hit me. And we're like, no, you just ran a red light. And he was kind of stumbling and walking out in the middle of traffic. And after about 20 minutes had gone by, I went back across the street and I was calling my parents. I finally had a realization that this is how I take a chance at life, that I felt I was scared. I called my parents and I told them what happened. And while I was standing over there, when I called back, I realized it had been over 20 minutes. And I told the dispatch that he was in his truck and he was revving the engine. And it looked like he was going to pull away, and at that time he did. He took off. Okay. So I got in my Jeep and I followed him, and I told the dispatch that I was following him, and she told me that she didn't advise it. And I told her that I'm just getting his tag number. I got the tag number by the time we got to the end of, right when I got to River Road. And we came around that curve, and I had an opportunity to get in front of him. Okay. I got in front of him, and I stopped in front of him. I got out and I was on the phone. I told him, I was like, you need to stop, you need to pull over. And he's like, who are you and who are you? And I'm like, I'm just no one, but I'm on the phone with the police. And that's when I was like right there and he's like, yeah, well, who are you? Who are you? I got something for you. I'm like, okay. I said, I'm just telling you, you need to stop. And you need to pull over. And that's when I had this my phone in my hand, and I told him, I was like, you need to stop. And I'm right there by his door at this point. He reaches out and kind of like hit my phone out and grabbed my wrist. Okay. He grabbed my wrist. We kind of started going back and forth, fighting. And that's when he punched the gas and he ran into my tire. And he's telling me the whole time, you know, oh, well, I don't know who you are, blah, blah, blah. And he was laying back when he pulled me. I got something for you reaching. Now, I don't know if he's reaching, I wasn't watching him, I was trying to pull away from him. And I had gotten him off of me, but he had my shirt, and that's when he ripped my shirt. He was pulling it. I have it underneath my shirt. Okay. Alright. Because I needed all over it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to do that, and that's the while we wouldn't have somebody do that.
He's pulling at it, and that's when I told him, after he's reaching, I told him, I said, I have a gun, I said, and I will shoot you. And that's when I reached for it. And because I hadn't reached for it, and I touched for it the entire time, I reached for it, I pulled it out, and that's when he when I pulled away from him, it was because my shirt ripped. It's not that he let go. I had it out at that point. He was still coming at me, still yelling at me, I got something for you, you know, you shoot me, then shoot me, do it. And he went forward on the door, and I pushed it forward with my knee, went back forward, pushed it forward, thinking he was trying to get out. And I told him,
Is the door open at all, or did it not open?
he was pushing at it. Like, he reached down, he went like this.
Okay.
So, from the angle that I was at, I don't know if it opened or not, but I could hear him grabbing his door handle. I could hear it, you know, like just pulling at it. And so that's when I pushed the door forward and he grabbed my hand and we were going back and forth. I didn't have my hand on the trigger, but we were going back and forth and he was holding it and he was twisting it, and then that's when I actually got my grip on it. And he was turning it and then it got faced almost all the way around when I pulled it back, and he lunged again, like with one hand on me, and he lunged and he swung, and he grabbed, like right here on the back of my shirt. And when he grabbed is when I honestly, I don't know. I don't remember telling myself to pull the trigger. It just...
So you had to have your finger on the trigger?
Yeah.
So when you're holding the gun,
Yeah, so I had
it inside
how
the trigger part?
it was like this. I had it like, originally I was holding it like this.
Okay.
I didn't have it inside, and he's reaching and turning and twisting, and as he's turning it, he's, you know, pulling, and we're going back and forth. So of course, I bought it for protection. Not that I have any intentions on ever trying to use it, but I was trying to get prepared for whatever I needed to be prepared for, thinking I'd be able to pull away and then just go, you know, get away from him, and that's not how it happened. So when he was pulling at me, and that's when my finger, I put it on the trigger, and he's pulling and pulling, and
before this day, have you ever seen that man before in your life that you know of?
no, I haven't.
I know it's probably hard for me to talk about, but we can like slow it down. You told us what happened, but I you pull around and you stop in front of him, and what happens is he stops behind you?
Yes.
How far between cars would you say? Like close, like far, like?
Maybe almost the length of this table.
Okay. And then what happens then?
Then that's when I was on the phone with dispatch, and he was asking me, he's like, who are you, and I told him.
So you're out of the car at this time?
Yeah, I just walked around and told him, you need to stop.
Okay, so
You need to pull over.
which side of the car were you on?
I was on his driver's side, and I was at the back of my car.
So y'all are on the right side of the road. I'm just trying to, because I know that intersection lot, so it's like when you come around and you get on 25. So before the ramp.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're right in front of him.
That kind of, you crosswalk area,
Gotcha.
so right there.
Okay,
And he was right here, and I had come around, and I was right here.
okay,
And when I stopped, I got out and I walked around,
okay.
telling dispatch, I'm on the phone, I was on the phone with her, and I told her, I said, I'm here, I said, and he stopped. And I told him, you need to stop,
Okay.
And he was like, who are you? I said, I'm no one, but I'm on the phone with dispatch, I'm on the phone with the police, you need to stop. You just caused that accident. And he said, yeah, okay, I got something for you, and that's when he pulled forward.
So at this time, it was just words being exchanged. There was no contact at all yet.
Right.
Okay. So he pulled forward how? Like his car went how far forward?
All the way forward to my Jeep.
So it struck your Jeep?
It did.
Okay. And then it struck the wheel. It struck the wheel, or that wheel on the back, like
No, the wheel on the side of the Jeep.
the actual. No. Okay.
Okay.
I got you.
And that's when I was telling him, I'm like, you need to stop. And that's when he was reaching.
Okay.
He hit my hand. I don't know if he did it intentionally trying to throw my
So
phone.
you're standing. So these are the two cars, this is the car, and he's inside the car here. You're standing right at his passenger.
Right here, so this is where my car was right
So
here.
you're sort of like an angle in front of him. Okay. So you're angled in, he's here. Yeah. Okay. So you're standing right.
When the volume went to.
Are we gonna need some assistance from IT?
Try it again. I don't know what it just went suddenly silent.
I believe they had the transcripts yesterday. And I think for some reason they come back and just they can use that with the detective.
Did you say no?
I'll call for some assistance.
Yeah. Okay. So you're standing right here.
I came around, I was standing right here, and that's when he went forward and he hit it, and I told him, whoa, I said, so you need to stop. I'm like, the police are right here, I said, you just need to stop. Okay, I got something for you, and I'm telling him, and of course, I'm telling him, from a distance, but I'm telling him, just stop,
So at this point, you're saying stop. No gun in hand, no nothing.
No, nothing, yeah.
Stop. Okay.
And that's when, because I had my phone in my hand, dispatch. And so that's when, of course, I'm closer to the car now, partially because he's going forward and partially because I went forward.
Okay.
And he's telling me, he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I got something for you, which is when he hit it. When I got closer, I was telling him, you need to stop. I'm telling the lady on the phone, of course, I can't hear her because I have her on speaker and all this is going on around me. And that's when me and him, he swung at my hand and he grabbed me by my wrist and he pulled me in.
So at that time, someone got out. No. Phone in hand.
Right. He swung it.
He made it hit me on your home like the phone like this?
That's what it was, I had it in my right hand.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's right here.
Okay. Don't get me, but.
Right. Well, with this hand, I'm telling you, you need to stop.
Okay.
And he just like, he went like this, and he grabbed me, and
He grabbed which hand?
my right hand, I'm sorry, my left hand.
The phone, not the phone.
Not the phone,
Okay.
right.
I got you.
But when he did which honestly, I don't know how he lunged it first, but when he lunged, it hit my phone. So it bounced it out of my hand, and he grabbed it out to the ground, and it shattered the screen.
Okay.
And then he grabbed me.
How?
He was like this.
Okay.
And that's when me and him were going back and forth.
Okay.
But it was more me in the vehicle than it was him out, because he's pulling at me, he's tugging.
Okay.
So he's pulling, we're going back and forth, he's hitting, he's swinging. I'm trying to hit, but I'm also trying to pull away, because the only thing that I know for protecting me and this man is what I have on me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by this point, I'm telling him, that's what I'm telling him, I have a gun. I said, and I will shoot you. And I'm pulling. This hand was free. I'm trying to just get away to get my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't. So then, that's when he's saying, yeah, okay, I got something for you. Something about, I don't even know who the F you are, you're nobody or whatever. And that's when I pulled it out, because he's leaning, saying, I got something for you. This is him, he still had my hand.
Okay.
He's saying, I got something for you.
And you're trying to lean, you're leaning back away from the car?
Yeah, I'm being pulled in, but I'm trying to pull away, and that's when I pulled it out.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, you need to stop, that I had a gun, and I would shoot him. He's like, yeah, okay, shoot me. And that's when he lunged, he let me go, but he lunged, pushes the door open.
Okay.
Which is when I thought he was pushing the door open. He leans forward, and he's reaching again, and when he grabbed my shirt, and it ripped it.
Okay.
So then when he was reaching I already had it forward, reaching out, and it ripped. And I'm thinking here is when I'm trying to say I'm going to get away with the door thing.
Mm-hmm.
He grabs my hand with the gun.
Okay.
We're wrestling with it inside, and that's when he's turning it, and I managed to get it back towards him, and that's when it went off.
Okay. So, you pull up the gun, you're right hand or left?
I'm right, and
So
I
you
have
have
it sealed
on your right
on my
side?
right side.
Okay, so you pull up the gun and what happens? So he still got a hold of you or he does not hold of you?
He still has a hold of my hand when I pulled it out.
Okay.
But then that's when he lunges, he didn't lunge, but he grabbed the door.
Okay.
So he grabbed the door.
Is he still holding you or is he let go now?
He's still holding me in the beginning. In the very beginning, which is when he grabbed the door.
Okay.
He goes to push the door open, and when I got away, but he had my shirt,
Okay.
and that's when my shirt was ripped.
What kind of shirt do you have on?
It's
like
black.
buttons or no buttons or just okay.
But it has like a hole type thing in the middle that he was able to grab onto.
Okay.
Which, sorry, it's just,
I know it's hard. Take your time. You need to.
I never thought I would.
Nobody ever does. Okay.
And, okay. So I had it in my hand at this point.
Okay. Are you pointing it yet or are you, where is the one gun pointed at him?
It's up, like this is the window, and I pulled it out like this, trying to get him away from, trying to get off. He still has a hole in my shirt. When he pulled away from the shirt is when the door happened.
Okay.
I pushed the door with my knee, and
Do you think the door opened at all?
I went forward when I pushed it, which is
So
why
it was open. It had to have been open. Okay.
I mean, and that's where all the marks came from on my jeans with the outside of the car.
Did the photographer take pictures of you? No.
Someone didn't talk to me.
Okay. We're going to need to have it with them pictures.
Okay, so he was, when he still had me when I pulled it out, and I'm telling him, he said, yeah, shoot me, I got something for you, And then I was up, I pulled it up, and that's when he had a hold of my shirt ripped, he grabbed the gun.
Okay, hold the gun. Grab the gun. You were in. Grab the gun.
So he's trying to turn like this, and I'm trying to push up against the door. After my shirt was ripped, he went like this.
Okay.
He was pulling at it, but my hands were just on
Okay.
the side, and yeah, so
Okay.
he's pulling at it, and he's pulling at the trigger area, in the trigger.
His hand is in the trigger
The
guard?
hand in the trigger guard, yeah.
Okay.
And I bought, the one that I bought was because it had the double
Gotcha.
safety mechanism. So I wasn't too worried, I guess, because I didn't have my hand all the way on that, on the
Okay.
back, I could tell.
Okay.
So he's pulling at it, and that's when he's going like this, and he's turning it and turning it.
Turn your away from yourself.
Yeah, and he's trying to, and that's when he grabs it. My fingers and his fingers were both in it, and he's trying to pull it, and that's when I'm trying to pull my hand out, but I'm not trying to leave the gun there, obviously.
Right.
So he was pulling it and turning it, and that's when I was able to kind of just like yank it back towards him, and he had it like this, and he was like, yeah, just shoot me, just shoot me. And that's when he lunged, he still had a hold of my hand right here.
With the gun then?
With my hand, and he lunged, and that's when,
Okay.
yeah.
And do you think that he pulled the trigger, or do you think that you pulled the trigger?
What I told them originally was that I felt like he did. Because I did not have my finger, I know about the double safety mechanism, so that's why I specifically did not have my finger on the trigger.
Okay.
Now, when I pulled it back around, after he was, tugging at me and he lunged, he still had his hand on it, and I had my hand in on it.
Okay.
But it was more so of a matter of force instead of me saying, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger.
Okay.
Does that
And you're talking about the double safety, I'm not familiar with what kind of thing you have.
Springfield, an XD,
Okay. When you're talking about it, is it like a double trigger, it's like a trigger and then another trigger and you have to pull them both back in order to, okay.
And then also on the back of the handle, there's also like a
Switch, like safety switch?
it's like a, almost like a, I don't know how to,
Oh, if you're not pressing that, you're not pressing that.
this part, if you're not actually holding it properly, it's not going to. Which, when you first had it turned, I heard it click, like the trigger was pulled, and that's before I had it pulled down. Before I had my finger pulled down, but because I didn't have my finger on that back part, it didn't do anything.
Gotcha.
So he's pulling and he's fighting, and that's when I put my finger on the trigger, and he still has his hand on my hand, so that way both of our hands was in the, I don't know, the trigger.
The trigger bar?
Trigger, yeah,
Like a little circle or thing? Yeah, okay.
And I'm pulling, and that's when it went off.
Okay. Never seen this thing before.
No.
Okay. Will you write me a statement saying what you just told me?
Three questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I help you understand the more part about because you sound like you're standing grabbing three things at one time. The door, your shirt, and the gun. I'm not understanding how you can grab all three at one time. So make that more clear to me.
So the first thing that he grabbed was my hand, with his right hand.
Okay, at this point there's some
This one.
not
Well, it's not out.
Right. All right, first thing you grab is your shirt. Where at your shirt?
No, not my shirt, he grabbed my hand.
Okay, grab your wrist.
Yeah, with his right, he grabbed my left wrist with his right hand.
Okay.
And that's when me and him were fighting, going back and forth, hitting. And that's when he's telling me, he's like, okay, well, I got something for you, He's twisted and turning, and he's leaning back. So then, after that is when I told him that I had a gun.
All right, then we can go back to where the wrist is grabbing. At what point were you inside? Was your arms inside of the vehicle? Or did he have to lean out of the window to grab you?
He had to lean out, because I was right at the window, so it wasn't.
Were your arms right from the window when you was talking to him?
No.
What was your hands doing besides the cell phone? What was his hands doing?
So if this is the window, and this is inside the car, I'm telling him you need to stop, because my hand's right here, and I'm on the phone with the police. Now, I wasn't.
Was he stopping at that point? The vehicle?
Yes.
So why did you say I tell him to stop if he stopped?
He wasn't in park, and he never turned off the vehicle. And I mean, it wasn't a matter of like he was, I guess, not complying, but he was just saying, and it wasn't necessarily that he was inching, But like he was just saying, no, I'm not, I got something, I don't even know who you are, who are you? I can't tell him.
Okay.
I was no one.
So what was your response to that?
When you, to what?
I don't know who you are.
That's what I told him. I said, I'm no one. I said, but I'm on the phone with the police.
Okay.
I said, and they're telling me to stop.
And when you responded to that, what are you doing? Are you still moving? Are you talking with your hands? Are you still moving with your hands? Are you
Yeah,
still standing, like holding the stop? Are you pointing? I'm trying to understand. Somebody's sitting in the truck.
Right.
You're standing outside. How can their right hand reach across the driver's up? So trying to without you being partially inside that vehicle already.
I mean, I was close.
Okay.
But I wasn't leaning forward. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't.
So you just.
Right. And that's when he said, I don't know who you are. And that's when he reached forward, like he was swinging almost.
Like trying to swing and hit you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's when he grabbed me. And that's what I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to hit me. So I was just willing to just take the hit and thinking it was going to go past that. And I was still on the phone with the police. And I could see the police car.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, but instead of swinging, when he swung with that hand,
His right hand?
I'm sorry, yes. When he swung with his right, when I was thinking he was swinging with his right hand, is when he grabbed my wrist.
Okay.
But before he grabbed my wrist, there was a motion with his, I think it was his left hand. There's no way that he could have motioned it over here with his right hand. Did I see it with two different hands? No, but I'm looking at him.
What kind of motion?
Like he was like telling me like to
Get away.
basically, yeah, like no, I'm not stopping, I'm not. He's like, no, I don't know who you are, you're not no one, you're no one.
So he's like motionless and like get away from me. Like kind of like get away, I don't know who you are.
But that's what I'm saying, I don't know if it was a getaway or if it was a trying to hit the phone out of my hand. Cause I'm going like this to him, I'm on the phone with them right now.
So you like explain the screen to him?
Yeah,
How you look at him?
mm-hmm.
So at that point you stick is your hand more so inside the truck or is it still outside?
Closer.
Okay. Closer to this person.
I don't think I was in the truck too.
I got you. I think you're in the truck like this. It's a Lord, so I saw the vehicle, I saw everything was parked at the end. So before how close your vehicles were, you were saying there was a little bit more distance. All right. So prior to that distance, all this is when this all happens, right? You grab your hand before pulling off, or did you grab your hand after?
He grabbed my hand before.
All right, so this is grabbing your hand before.
Mm-hmm. And while he has my hand, and we're going back and forth and we're fighting and whatever.
All right.
My phone had already fallen out the sheet.
Okay.
Falling out my hand. And that's when he's saying, I got something for you. And that's when he went forward.
Okay, I got something for you, go forward. While still holding on to you.
Right. But,
All right.
yes. And then that's when I rushed back. Because with one hand, he had me and he had me pulled. And we're going back and forth. And his hand, eventually my shirt got ripped.
Okay.
Somehow. But it wasn't when he had grabbed it. It was where he was just like hitting and we were scuffling basically. If that makes sense.
Okay, so your shirt got ripped from scuffing, not from him grabbing.
It got, you could hear like stitch pull.
Okay, so
but at the end, what caused it to rip, actually rip like fully, was from him grabbing it and him pulling it.
Alright, from him pulling it. Alright, so let me understand. So we got the grabbing of the wrist.
Right.
Then I got something for you where the vehicle moves forward.
Right.
While I'm still holding you. Alright. Yeah. At what point does the door open?
I went with the vehicle when it was going forward.
How did the vehicle stop? Did he just stop or did you?
No, it didn't stop. He didn't stop. It went into the car.
Was he driving it forward, or was he, did he have his, what was his hand doing when the vehicle went forward?
One hand was with me.
On your shirt or on your arm?
That was with my wrist.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Did he move, did he turn to drive the vehicle away, or did he, did his foot slip off the brake and it moved wood?
no, because you can hear it, right?
Yeah, okay. Right. So he's holding you with his right hand, and he moved forward. I guess he might move driving forward.
He didn't reach forward for the
steering wheel.
no, he didn't.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. He just heard the engine roll.
Okay. Did at any point did he shut off his vehicle?
No.
So the car should have still been driving by the time
honest, I don't know.
Do you remember him reaching for his gear shift to park it or to do anything? Or did he have to reach in and turn his car off or something like
The
that?
only time that he reached was when he's saying, I got something for you, after he let
Yeah,
go.
when he was he reaching the back, side, front, where was he reaching at?
I saw his arm go this way.
So it's like towards the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Toward almost turned diagonal.
Okay,
But
I got you, like kind of,
it could have been to the back, it could have been behind, underneath, to the side.
I got you.
It could have been to the gear shift,
Mm-hmm.
with you saying it now. But he's saying, after I said I have a gun,
Mm-hmm.
he said, oh, and he's saying still, I got something for you, and he reaches.
But the first time you said I got something for you, he just moved the vehicle. There was no reaching for no weapon or anything at that time, just moving up the vehicle. All right, so at this point, after he grabs your arm, I have something for you, strikes your vehicle, what happens next?
Then my wrist, I pulled my wrist away.
So you gotta get away from him.
Yeah, I didn't already have my gun pulled out.
All right, so where did you remove your gun from?
A concealed holster.
So you have a concealed holster on your right hip? Okay.
So I pulled it out.
Mm-hmm. And when you pulled it out, what did you do with that gun?
I loaded it.
All right, so you racked the chamber.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Which is when he had my shirt.
So at this time, he's now grabbing your shirt. So you was able to get away, snatch away from him with your left wrist. And immediately, did he grab your shirt, or was there some separation at that point?
There was a minimal amount of separation. From the wrist, I had the gun out. When I pulled it away, it was a one movement. I was still within a couple inches of his, even as that, of his door. And that's when he's pushing open the door.
All right, why did you didn't have enough time to retreat, to run away to your vehicle?
That's what I had intended on doing after I took out my gun.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying, that's when he pulled out, that was where the lean happens, the reach, I got something for you, he's pushing open the door, and that's when I pushed up against the door. I had it in my hand, I wasn't holding it back, but I had it in my hand, and I'm at the window with my gun in my hand.
So we gotta reach back, also open the door, but you gotta lean kind of forward. But if you close that, all right.
After
You shut the door?
the reach, it wasn't a matter of him just like staying over here. He was reaching, and then it was
So reaching means like he's looking for something. Is he still over there trying to find something, or is it just like just a little reach back?
from where we were, halfway in and out, both of us, it was, I got something for you.
Okay. But does he hold that position, or is it something just very quick?
I looked up to see him like this, and when I looked back, he was moving forward.
Okay.
And the door was pushing his
All right, I got you. So it wasn't like a whole like touching, reaching.
Yeah, no.
I got you. All right, so then he leans back, pushes the door forward. Do you ever see what's in his hand?
I couldn't see his hand from where we were, from how I was pulled back and the angle that I'm sitting at, and I'm focusing on nothing, truthfully. So, you know what I mean? Like there was no assuming that there was, assuming that there wasn't.
Just enjoy it.
It was just me just trying to make sure that I was prepared for whatever it may have been.
I got you. So at that time, he opens the door. You close it back, right?
That's when I pushed up against it with my knee.
What made you do that? Why would you prevent him from opening the door?
I'm yelling at him, telling him to stay in the car. I told him you need to stay in the car. The police are on their way.
Okay.
And that's when he lunges. He grabs
When
my
you say lunges, that means he actually trying to reach out the window? Like at this point, he's past the barrier from inside the vehicle to outside?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And he got him in both hands or arm?
He's just coming with his right hand.
Okay.
Because he's turned sideways, like if this is the window, he's turned sideways as he has his hand up against, almost like he has it on the armrest. He has his hand up against the door, that's when I pushed it, and I told him, you need to stay in the car.
Okay.
And I had it in my gun in my hand.
Are you pointing at him at this time?
I'm not pointing it at him, but I'm not pointing it.
So where are you pointing at? Where is he
It
going to
was
point?
at rest with my hands, right here.
So your hand is actually on the car?
No, I'm just saying, like at the window.
Okay.
And I was actually further away because I had my knee on the door when I told him that. So I
Okay.
had my knee on the door, and I'm telling him I pushed the door forward.
Alright, tell me how your hands are. Is she holding the gun sideways, holding pointed? Like, how's your, where's your hands? Like, sideways, where's your hands?
My hands are up here.
Oh, so you got like a higher rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had it, I pulled it out, and I had it up here.
Where's the muzzle point?
It's more so pointing sideways. Because I have it, so I have it in my hand like this.
Alright, so not pointing at him, but just kind of like ready at the bull. Alright. And then you close the door back and tell him to stay in the car. At this point, he reaches out, correct? And he reaches out with his right hand. So you know there's nothing, no weapon or nothing in his right hand, correct?
Correct, well, yes.
Alright, because you didn't see no weapon or nothing in his right.
I didn't see anything in it, but he didn't have anything.
Okay.
This hand is still down.
The left hand, which was the one that he was not reaching with, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's the one, he just reached to trying to open the door. Okay. And then he grabbed your shirt
He grabbed my shirt.
with his right hand. Okay.
And that's when I'm trying to just pull away from him, and it was making me nervous because of the fact that I had the gun in my hand and I just wasn't holding it like I'm ready to shoot, so I didn't have the best grip on it. So because of it, I'm pulling away from him, and he's pulling to
So
me.
you're using both hands now to try to push off the car, or
It's more so just my right hand because I'm trying to, do this with him.
okay, with the left hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm trying to do this, just trying to push him off of me. And the gun is still facing that way.
Okay.
But that's when he lifts up and he grabs it.
Lifts up.
Lifts up with his hand, his left hand.
So you lift up with his left hand, grab you lift up with his left hand, grab the gun.
Just as he pulls away with my shirt, like almost like he's trying to pull me closer towards him. But that's when the shirt rips all together. When that happens is when he lifts up with his right hand.
Okay.
His left hand.
Okay.
And the gun is right at his door.
Okay.
And he grabs it.
Okay. With his left hand.
With his left hand, yeah.
Okay. And at this time, is he still holding on to your shirt with the right hand, or?
No, his hand has come off of my shirt.
Alright.
So now, his hand has come off of my shirt.
So now, left hand grabbing the gun, what is right hand doing?
Left hand was grabbing the gun. Then he immediately pulled his right hand around.
So now he got two hands on your
On
gun.
me, yes.
Okay. And at that point, how many hands do you have on your gun?
I pulled my hand under, and I was trying to pull my actual hand away.
Okay.
I couldn't actually grab the gun itself.
Because your right hand and his hands are all
On it, right. Don't have my fingers on the trigger. I had it resting on the side of the trigger. That's when he's turning it, like he keeps turning, and it gets to almost like where my hand is on top of it. His hands are turning it, and we're that way, and it kind of going back and forth over here, and when it was in this is when I...
At this point, is the gun more so inside of the truck or more so outside of the truck?
It's more so... We were right at the window,
Right.
but when he's turning it, it's outside.
Okay, so it's more so outside of the truck. That is how your gun and your hands are more out of the truck.
Because, it's
Okay.
like a back and forth thing. It's like he's pulling, I'm pulling. But the only thing that was keeping
So
me
the tug of war, you was primarily winning because of the fact that your hands was outside of the truck?
it kind of was going back and forth.
Okay.
The only reason that I was able to pull fully, I couldn't because he was stronger than I was.
Okay.
To actually pull away from him, but the truck and my knee being up against the truck was kind of helping him. Yeah. So that's when I was pulling. We're going back and forth, and the entire time it was never more so in the car, out the car when we had the gun. It was more so like right there. And he's pulling, so my arm is now technically inside the vehicle.
Okay.
And he's pulling, and it got to where the gun was pointed kind of that way, and he had a hold of the trigger, and the trigger was pulled.
Okay.
It didn't go off.
Because your hand wasn't on the table.
Right. So that's when I'm lifting up, and I'm trying to pull over.
Okay.
When I'm lifting up, and I'm trying to think that I can just get above him, because I have air in the truck. Thinking I could just get above him, and it wasn't working. So then we're back here, both hands And I'm yelling at him, telling him, I said, just let go, just let go, let go. And he's yelling, no, just shoot me, shoot me. You said you're going to, just shoot me. And I'm like, just let go, just let go. That's when his hands and my fingers were
In the trigger guard.
they were at the trigger guard.
Okay.
And that's when my hand was underneath, so I'm still pulling, and he had let go with his right hand. His right hand, which is when he was reaching. And when he was reaching is when my hand went in the trigger guard, yes. And that's when he grabbed kind of like this side. It was somewhere right here.
So with his right hand, that hand still on the gun,
That hand's on the gun, yeah.
and then he grabs you. And then,
Well, he tried to grab me, but when I pulled away is when, because he's more forward now than he was before, and more turned. I mean, he's almost fully turned, by pulling. And I think that was also just a matter of us kind of going back and forth with him like this. And he's pulling after he tried to pull the trigger. When it came back around is when I had my hand on the trigger. And he still was squeezing, reaching, pulling, turning.
with his left hand.
Which is when the lunge happened, like the
The
grab.
extra.
And that's when it went off.
And then went off.
How many shots were fired?
Just before.
How many, did your gun hold?
It holds, I can now, I want to say 15 or 16.
Was it full?
No, it wasn't.
Do you know how many was in there?
11 or 12. My boyfriend loaded it for me after he bought me new bullets, so
How did you get the gun?
like originally purchased it, you mean?
Yeah, like was it gifted or did you go buy it? Where did you buy it from?
Gun safe and armory, in
Okay.
Forest Park. Something like that.
Yeah. And how long you had that gun?
Not long enough. Maybe a couple weeks.
A couple of weeks. Did you take any training classes with the gun or did it just jump at you?
It wasn't, I didn't take any scheduled training.
First
It
time,
wasn't
like,
professional, yeah.
okay.
I mean, I've been to the range, I grew up shooting them.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up around police officers, actually, so.
I got you. Why, you brought up about the 911 call. Why did you stop?
Why did I stop originally?
Yeah.
Because I could,
Why did you change? Like, why did you stop?
I'm not a just, oh, it wasn't me type of person. I'm,
What you explain that?
I mean, not that it has anything to do with it, but my entire life until I was 18 and my grandfather passed away, I was going to be a police officer. And I'm a people person. I like to help people. And considering the fact that I was almost involved, it threw me. So I called the police, and I was on the phone with her. I told her, I'm sure they've already called, but I just let you know, she goes, well, we haven't actually received any calls yet. So I thought it was weird. So that's why I pulled off. I got out. I walked over and was talking to them. And after he was getting out of his truck, the truck driver had come back. The other police officer was also there. And that's when he had come back, or he was getting out of his truck and he was stumbling and falling into traffic.
The guy?
Yeah.
So he had appeared inebriated?
Yeah. Yes.
Have you been around drunk people before, or people using other drugs for their prescription or not?
Okay, I just had to stop a minute. Now, I know it's really hard to hear, but sometimes I had to play some of it over, but if you listen, you can get most of it. But the thing that she said just a minute ago, she said something like, but ever since she was 18 and her grandfather died, she wanted to be a police officer. And she's a people person. Well, Okay, she could have fooled me because with that face, the way it looks so mean and angry and hostile. I mean, granted, she's probably under duress right now, but I mean, she didn't seem like she was very much of a people person with poor Mr. Herring. I don't think that statement there is going to bode well with her. I'm just saying. I don't know. That's pretty so screwed up, guys. What do you think? Do you think that statement is going to help her out in people person? Ugh. Could you imagine her trying to collect rent from you? Give me your rent. Give me your effing rent. Give me your rent. Give me your rent. Oh my gosh. Oh, Hannah. This is crazy, guys. Crazy.
What did you think?
I thought it was alcohol.
Okay, did you ever smell any alcohol?
I never got close enough.
Even when you're at the window, like when you're having this, did you ever take a whiff of anything, or?
I can't say that I did. Can't say that I didn't.
Okay.
Oh, Hannah, come on.
That's something that you noticed, that
No,
you
nothing
remember.
like I didn't know.
Did you smell anything that you noticed?
No.
No.
No, nothing.
You would have noticed alcohol. Come on.
Anything outside.
Okay.
And I'm getting fired up, guys.
Like no alcohol, no pretty smells, no nothing like that.
No. But when I was standing there talking to the guy, I thought it was weird that he kept going back to his vehicle. So that's why, and he turned it on and started revving it while we were all standing in front of it.
Okay.
So that's when I had walked back across the street and I was calling my parents to tell them what happened. And I told them, let me call you right back. It's been almost 20 minutes and this guy's making me nervous.
Okay.
So I called dispatch. That was when I called the police officer. The police and the dispatch answered. And that's when I was on the phone with her when he took off.
And did the dispatcher ever tell you not to follow them?
She said, I told her, I said, I'm following him.
Didn't I?
And she said, yeah, so she said, she's like, we ask that you don't put yourself at risk.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, I'm just trying to get a tag number so you can have it. By the time I got a tag number, we were at the end to the video road.
Yeah, trying to get his tag number. But she did a lot more than get his tag number. What say you all?
And I come around that corner. And right before he came around the corner, I came around the corner, and I got in front of him, and I stopped him.
Did you ever get his tag number?
Right when I got to the end, yeah.
Alright. So did you get the tag number before you kind of cut him off?
Yes.
What made you cut him off still after getting the tag number?
Yeah, thank you.
I saw the police light, and the police light was more so than after.
Oh.
Again, I've been involved in the hit and run, and
How many hit and runs have you been involved in, Hannah? Come on now. Yeah, see, he asked her the big question. Did you get the tag number before you stopped him or after? Oh, big difference. It's just like Daryl Brooks. He could have stopped and not hit any of the people. She could have stopped. She still could have been a hero if she wants to look at it that way. And her people person thing she's talking about, and got his tag number and stopped there. Oh, Hannah, you really effed up.
if the world was perfect, I could know that was his car, that tag number would go to the right person, but it wasn't just like he was just in the accident and then he just wanted to leave. He was just in the accident and he was all over the place. And that's when that's exactly what I told him.
It wasn't your job.
He's all over the place. I said, there's no way. I said, please just get an officer here. I said, and then, I'll stop, but I said, he's going to hurt someone.
Right.
Which is what I got.
Yeah, he's going to hurt someone just like she was going to hurt someone when she cut off my favorite witness trying to get to him, swerving in and out of traffic. It's just, oh my gosh. It's so absurd. She ended up putting more people's lives in danger. Well, and really put someone's life in danger, Mr. Herring, than he did. And the thing is, she does not seem very shaken up, not even knowing if he died or I don't know that she ever asked them how he was doing or had they heard how he was doing. I mean, she doesn't seem very shaken up at all. That kind of gets me too. I mean, that's just my observation.
And assuming that was going to stop him.
We're stopping at 9:34, moving ahead.
Awkward silence. But Hannah even knows. I think she even knows. But you know, old attorney Smarmy is going to come up with some dumb questions. I can just imagine.
One more time, get into the right spot.
Yeah, I think you're thinking that whole thing is hard for you. I think we need pictures of each person.
I mean, there's a little more here, and I'm not saying acting, I'm just saying, like,
Wherever you sustain
I have a scratch here.
Okay.
I mean, I felt more scratches around here, I don't, yeah, but my hair was more, when I first, I mean, because I had it, not that it makes that much of a difference, but it was like that.
Okay.
So we're going back and forth.
Right.
So I mean, that one, I don't know if it's one where I haven't looked.
Okay.
I have bra.
Okay.
Judge, we're stopping at 9:36. Detective Hamilton, do you agree, based on your investigation in this case, that this interview basically took place within a couple of hours of the shooting?
Correct.
And at the time that you conducted the interview with the defendant, had you listened to the 911 calls?
No.
Had you formally interviewed any of the other eyewitnesses?
No.
Had you watched the body cameras of any of the uniform responding officers?
No.
So when you hear the defendant in the interview saying that she was telling Mr. Harry to stay in the car, did you hear her say that?
Yes.
Were you aware that on the 911 calls, she's saying the opposite, get out of the car?
Not at that time. No.
Oh, that's true. She did. Oh, that's a
And do you, for the record,
great point.
on the interview, do you hear that the defendant admits that she caused Mr. Herring to stop, that she stopped him?
Correct.
That's right. I noticed that too. She did not initially say that. So she did cut him off, I believe.
And even though she goes back and forth repeatedly, do you hear the defendant several times in your interview with her acknowledge that she put her finger on the trigger?
Yes.
Ooh. Uh-oh. Ooh, that's another one. Ooh, boy, Hannah.
Based on your evidence in this case, after the interview, obviously, did you watch all the interviews and conduct the interviews and watch the media that I just talked about?
Yes.
Did you receive any evidence in this case that Mr. Herring ever got out of his vehicle in any way?
No.
And did you hear the defendant acknowledge that Mr. Herring had nothing in his hands?
Yes.
Did you ever hear her, or did she ever tell you at any time about any specific weapon she was concerned about?
No.
Did the defendant ever mention being concerned about a sheetrock knife located back in the trash or behind Mr. Herring's seat? Did she ever mention a knife to you at all?
No.
Ouch, Hannah.
Let's talk a little bit about one second. In order to be a police officer, do you receive any training as it relates to firearms in general?
Yes, ma'am. Initially in basic law enforcement training and then ongoing continuous training throughout the year of your career.
And have you maintained, you said you're still working in security?
Correct.
Are you still around weapons,
Yes,
things like that?
I am.
And I want to go back to one thing before I forget to do it. Do you hear, you asked the defendant specifically if she'd taken any gun safety classes, and she told you no?
Correct. Professionally, yes.
You and the defendant kind of start discussing the double safety, is that correct?
Yes.
Approach with what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit number 15. I'm going to ask the witness if he can step down to show a feature of this weapon, please.
Yes.
You would make sure, since your back is going to be to the court reporter, if you keep your voice up.
Okay.
And again, for the record, there is a zip tie. There is no ammunition. The gun is safe. If you could show the jury on State's Exhibit number 15 what that second safety is and where it is on the firearm.
It's going to be on the back side of the handle, where my finger is pointing, and you have to grasp the handle firmly to push that trigger in.
And there's also the double trigger, so there's a safety feature on the trigger. So in order for this gun to fire, what all has to be happening at the same time?
Both the trigger on the back of the handle and also the trigger within the trigger guard have to be pulled.
So someone's hand has to be firmly on both.
Correct.
Right? You would. And you heard on the interview that the defendant claims that the moment she was able to pull the gun, that she racked the slide.
Yes.
In your experience with firearms, how many hands does it take to rack a slide?
2.
So when she has the gun out, who's racking the slide, she has both hands.
Correct.
Were you eventually able to obtain a video of this incident?
Yes.
And that was from Cameron Williams, is that correct?
Can't recall the name, but it was from a witness.
Approach with what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit number 22. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. I'm just going to let you look at that, and I'm going to display it. Using State's Exhibit number 22. The position that you see the defendant's hand in, with her hand all the way on the back of the grip and the finger in the trigger guard, is that the position that the hand would have to be in order to pull the trigger on that gun for it to work?
Correct.
No further questions at this time, Judge.
Oh boy, here we go. Attorney Smarmy.
Attorney Tucker.
Or Attorney Tucker.
Hey, look how you doing today. Sharp as always.
I appreciate it. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Now, you were saying that the interview you had with Miss Payne, that was a couple of hours after the incident, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And there had been a couple of interviews with her with other officers, correct?
Not to my knowledge. Maybe the initial interview with the uniform officer, but typically it's not something that more in detailed interview on the roadside is not something that's typical.
So it wasn't typical for them to do an interview like that, or?
To my knowledge, it's not I do not recall them having a detailed interview on the side of the road with her.
Okay, but when you did your investigation, you saw with the officer put her in the back of the car, walked up with the pad, and started asking her what happened, correct?
No.
So you never went back and witnessed that video that your officer had where he was interviewing?
Yeah, so it's been a while. According to my recollection, Hannah Payne was not in the back of a car. She was out. She was standing with an officer. And then, and that's when he was informed that officer to go ahead and detain her to transport her to our headquarters for an interview.
So, according to your recollection, they got her, they detained her, put her in a car, straight to the precinct.
Correct.
Okay. And she sat at the precinct for a long time, correct?
Yes, she was there for a while.
Okay. And her phone was taken away from her, correct?
Correct.
Was she ever asking to speak to her parents or call her parents to let them know that she's okay?
At one point she did ask.
Okay. And did you allow her to call her parents to say, hey, I'm okay? The last time they talked, it's kind of crazy.
At that point, I informed her that her parents was already there.
Parents were at the precinct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Mm-hmm. What do you think Hannah's thinking right now? I think she's saying, my goose is cooked, or I'm going to get out of here, or I really should have had a different attorney. Or, how could this happen to me? I'm a people person. Or maybe none of the above.
So we're back where she'd asked to use her phone to talk to her parents, correct? To basically just say she was safe.
Correct.
Okay. And then it was roughly, I counted about an hour, 22 minutes before that she sat in the room, just sitting there kind of putting her head down. I don't think we got to see the whole thing, but it was just, just her in a room by herself, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, you and Detective Moore came in there and started asking questions. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. And in these questions, how long have you been a detective there at Clayton County?
For 3 years.
Okay. And did you have any other training as a detective before that?
Just basic law enforcement uniform.
Okay. And basically, as a detective, they teach you different strategies and techniques on how to interview people.
Correct.
And it's different than they would a law enforcement that's on the street, correct?
Not necessarily, no, sir.
Did you take any different classes to assist you in the ability to interview?
No, I did not take an additional interview and interrogation courses.
Okay. And have you ever had an occasion where you're dealing with somebody and say they cut you off or won't listen to you or try to end your sentences?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and how did that make you feel? Frustrated?
It can be frustrating.
So, and in this interview, a lot of times you're asking Miss Payne some questions, and it appears you did not let her finish her sentence, or you're trying to finish it for her. Did you see that in the interview?
No, sir. What I did recognize is that I allowed Detective Moore to ask all the questions initially, and I was just asking follow-up questions to get more detailed information.
All right, do you recall asking her, so did the door open, or did you see the door open? She says, I didn't see the door open, but your next question said, now that the door is opening. Do you recall seeing that on the video, or do you recall saying that?
No, sir.
Okay. Why were you harping on the door?
And I was just interested.
Yeah, that's pretty funny of him to ask. He's the king of harping, wouldn't y'all say? Come on now.
In regards to the positioning of the incident, whether it took place inside of the vehicle or whether it took place outside, because but just with the initial conversation with the uniform officers, it was supposedly that there was a physical altercation with Miss Payne inside of the vehicle striking Mr. Herring.
So you did talk to some of the officers that were on the scene, correct?
Yes, to gain initial information.
And none of them said that the officer took her in the back of the car and interviewed her?
No.
Okay. Now, as I was writing it down, it appeared she was telling about he was reaching for something to open the door or trying to open the door. She couldn't really tell, but she heard kind of grabbing at the panel on the inside. She didn't say panel, but at the door.
Correct.
Did you try to open the door when you got on the scene?
I can't recall if I tried to open the door, but I doubt it.
Okay. Did you hear that anybody could get the door open?
I can't recall, honestly speaking.
Do you recall Officer Ritchie saying that he had to go around to get into the vehicle because the door on the driver's side would not open?
Okay. I don't recall that, no.
Now who's harping on the door?
Do you recall anybody else mentioning the door, or how about this? Do you recall how much damage was on the truck?
Oh, the vehicle had extensive damage, yes.
And could that damage cause that door to have not opened?
There's a possibility, yes. Yes, sir.
And so there's a possibility because the damage occurred prior to the encounter with Miss Payne, correct?
Right, with the accident.
So it's a possibility that door could not open.
Correct.
And you stated there, she started talking to you initially and stated that basically she was on the phone with the police or 911, and she'd been told by an officer to go get the tag. Do you recall hearing that in your interview?
Well, repeat that?
Do you recall hearing in your interview that her saying that she was on the phone with 911?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall hearing that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall hearing her saying that there was an officer at the scene of the first accident?
Oh, yeah, off-duty officer, yes.
Okay. But she called him an officer, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall her saying the officer kind of was like, go get the tag?
Yes.
Okay. So, from her side, she was telling you that's what was occurring when she went to get the tag, correct?
Okay, yes.
Okay, and then you asked the question, why didn't you stop? She said, well, the person on the phone was kind of like, be safe. So, do you remember her saying that she didn't recall them saying, don't chase, but you need to be safe?
No.
Okay. So, you don't remember her saying that the individual on the phone from 911 said that she needed to be safe?
I recalled she said that she was on the phone with 911, and I don't recall the fact that the person said just be safe. No.
You need to be safe. We want to make sure you're safe. Something
Okay.
along that
Right,
lines.
right.
Okay. I know it's been a while.
Yes.
But we just heard it, and I know you got other things going on. So
Yeah, seriously.
do you recall her stating that she just was walking up to the door, had the phone to show that she had 911 on the call, to talk to the gentleman to tell him to go back to the accident, correct?
Yeah, the one that she felt was inebriated. So if he was inebriated, why the heck would she approach him in the first place? Or think he was going to understand what she was saying after she said she already saw him stumbling into the traffic? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Correct.
Okay. So it sounds like she's just walking up with the phone trying to say, hey, you need to go back to the accident. She's not walking up there to get aggressive. She's walking up there to tell him to go back to the accident, correct?
That's not what she said to me in regards to like just that she was just telling me to go back to the accident in the interview. That's not what I recall from the interview, no.
Okay, at the beginning of the interview, she did a quick explanation of what's going on.
Right.
You don't recall her saying that I was on the phone with 911 and I walked up the phone to show that I was on the phone with the police or 911 and was telling him he needed to go back to the accident.
Not to hope you go back to the accident. No, I don't recall that part of the interview.
Okay. But you do recall hearing her say that as they were struggling and going back and forth for the gun, that she heard him pull the trigger and it clicked. And that's when they started talking about the safety mechanisms on the gun, correct?
I'm sorry?
When she was
Right.
testifying or telling you in this interview,
Okay.
she was talking about the position of her hands.
Yes.
A lot of times she would say trigger guard. A lot of times she'd say trigger. A lot of times she'd say hand. Do you recall hearing that?
Those times, yes.
Okay. And a couple of times she said trigger, but she came back and corrected herself to say trigger guard.
Correct.
Okay. And do you recall her saying that as they're pulling for this, that his hand got into the trigger and pulled it and it clicked?
No.
You don't recall?
I heard the trigger guard.
Okay, you didn't hear on that video where it just said, I heard the gun click. He had his finger in the trigger guard.
No.
No. I would hate to have to play it all back here on, but I believe it was in between. She said 9. I got right on 9. Oh. Oh, okay. I can use that.
He seems to be so ill prepared. Oh gosh, let's see if Hannah's going to whip it out and point him to the correct one. Oh, good gosh.
All right. I will. Now, as I'm looking for this, I'll keep trying to move forward. Now, you
Please do.
recall her saying that she saw that the car was stopped, so she pulled in front of the car, or the truck.
No, sir.
Do you recall her saying, I honestly don't know if the door opened or not, but I could hear him grabbing at the door handle. Do you recall hearing that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall her saying, not once, but a couple of times, that she had no intention of ever trying to use her gun?
Well,
I don't recall her saying that directly, but she did try to speak towards that. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, if I may approach Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
I'm gonna refresh your memory of the transcripts of the interview that we just heard. It states Exhibit 41. I don't believe they tendered it. They just used it for refreshing. And I'll just do the same. Do you see in there where it says she had no intention of using it being the gun?
Yes, I see that.
Does that refresh your memory a little bit better on that version?
Yes, you may. And what page are you referencing?
Number 9. So, refresh your memory. So you do recall her saying she had no intention of using the gun, correct?
Yes, but she was prepared.
Okay. And in that page 2, it kept saying that he kept pulling and pulling, and do you recall Detective Moore on that same page asking, so you pulled around and you stopped in front of him? What happens? So it wasn't like she blocked him and she stopped in front of him, correct? Do you recall hearing that in there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And a lot of times she kept saying that when she got up there, that the victim, the deceased there was asking, who are you? You're nobody. Do you recall hearing that from the testimony?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay, and she kept saying that he was telling her he had something for you and leaning back, correct?
Yes, that's what Ms. Payne said.
Okay. Now, did you get a chance to look at the contents of that truck?
Yes.
And was there any kind of items within that truck that could have been used
here we go.
to cause bodily harm to Miss Payne?
Again, this has been a while. To my record, I would have to probably see like the evidence list, but yes, it was like syringes in there. I do believe like there was a sharp tool that we did submit to evidence just because she stated that that she did see him reaching for something. So I don't think a lot of documents. There was a lot of things in that truck.
Okay, so as a detective and hearing what she had said in her interview, wouldn't you go back to his vehicle and look around to see if items that could have caused bodily harm and take them in as evidence?
Why?
Yes, I believe that was done.
So the knife was taken in as evidence.
Yes, I believe that was done.
Okay, and I've since exhibit 23, 24, 26, 30, and 30. And I think it goes up to 36, correct? And you're sticking, you got 26, 30, and 36. I'm playing this right there. So, you can look at those photos right there. Is that, to your knowledge, and I know it's been a while, is that a fair and accurate representation of what you saw in the vehicle?
Correct.
Okay. And as you look at those, do you see anything of interest that would probably be collected or used to investigate to find out what really was going on?
If something had to be of concern, it would be Exhibit 23, the cutting tool.
Okay. And nothing else in those pictures are of any interest to try to explain what was going on or somebody's behavior?
The syringe caps? No, sir.
There's nothing else in those pictures that were any interest or any value?
No, sir.
This is the third time he's asked this question. The witness has answered it. I would ask that the counsel move on.
Your Honor, I asked one time, he talked about a saw. I asked again, he just answered with the caps, and that's it. I haven't asked a third.
Okay,
So-
so I am going to sustain the objection. He has
Always gets
answered,
sustained.
what he thought.
He looks like he's in disbelief.
Used as a cutting tool was his response.
Correct.
He has answered.
And then he also answered that there were caps to a syringe, and then he said that was it. And I haven't asked another question since then. I
Okay,
just.
so he has answered, so if you move on, Attorney General.
All right, Your Honor.
Move on. Move on.
If I may.
Okay, my question is, Mr. Herring, God rest his soul, and his poor family who's been in agony for 4 or whatever years when this went on. What does it matter what he had in his car that would be of concern? Like, so what if he had a knife? It really wouldn't matter if he had, 3 chainsaws and 4 axes and I don't know what else, a baseball bat. At the end of the day, Hannah Payne was still the person who cut him off, approached him, went to his door. She was the aggressor. And they're trying to prove all these little things that he could have used. Of course, anybody could have used them on her, but he didn't. And he was not the aggressor. So I just don't get. He's going down a dead-end street as far as I'm concerned.
Show the juror what he was identifying.
Okay.
Okay. And this was the picture that you stated that there was a saw in, correct?
Correct, cutting tool.
Okay, cutting tool. And you reviewed all of these pictures. correct?
Correct.
And upon reviewing all of these, it was your testimony that there wasn't anything besides the cutting tool and possibly the cats that were of any value.
Correct.
Now, there was a picture shown. Yeah, there was a picture shown to you. I mean, that now hearing the interview and hearing how they were pulling and tussling and a shirt being ripped, the way that arm is pulled out, the way it is depicted in that picture, would that be possibly because the hand was being held and it finally got loose?
That's what requests this witness to speculate.
He is a detective, an investigator.
Oh,
He
please.
investigated this scene. He heard the testimony. I think he can give his opinion of the position of that picture. And from what all he learned in this investigation, he should be able to explain a theory or what he felt was depicting.
So I'm going to sustain the objection. Does call for speculation.
I'm telling you, he's attorney sustain, because he gets a lot of sustains.
All right.
Oh my gosh, it's funny.
Now, when Detective Moore was talking with Hannah Payne, a couple of times, she said she had put her finger in, then she stopped. She said, "I'd put my hand on, I don't know what it's called, the trigger," and Detective Moore said, "The trigger guard, correct? The circular thing." And she said, "Yes." Do you recall that?
No.
You don't? If I may refresh your memory. Page 24.
Correct.
So, a lot of times, as she's nervous in this interview, when she's stating certain things, a lot of times it needs to be corrected or clarified, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you could tell she was scared, kind of nervous.
Correct.
And that whole time she was sitting there in the room waiting to be interviewed. Did anybody offer up her any water or bathroom or anything?
Yes, I believe Detective Milanis did when he initially sat her in the interview room.
Okay. And you kept asking and trying to get clarity that how the positioning or the handling was on the gun, correct?
Correct. Just how what everybody's hands were doing.
Okay. And if I may, I'll use this just to evidence. That's okay.
Oh, is he gonna have his toy GUN again?
Once again, this is just an exhibit. It's not a real gun. It's a toy plastic gun.
I wonder if he goes home and plays with it at night.
No, it has the abilities, has nothing in it. Okay, if I may approach you.
You may.
The district attorney looks so disgusted.
You heard Ms. Payne saying in the position of what everything was going on. Could you show me the way she said she had the gun in her hand?
The way she said she had the gun in her hand?
Okay. And she said that the individual in the vehicle had grabbed her wrist. Is it fair to say with his left hand grabbed her wrist?
Yeah, grab the gun with the left hand?
Or grabbed gun or wrist?
Wrist.
Is
Okay.
that fair to say?
Yes.
So if she's got it like this, and he's got her shirt here, did she say at one time he let go and Katie grabbed the gun with both her hands?
Yes.
Okay, and as they grab, what is right there at the trigger of the trigger guard?
Fingers?
Okay, so not just one, but a couple, correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say hers is on the other side. She said underneath, correct?
Correct.
So, she's giving a description, and you're clarifying it and asking and going into details of what really happened. And as I initially asked about her stating that as he was pulling on the gun and going back and forth, that the trigger was pulled. Do you recall her saying that?
Yes.
Okay. And it was not pulled by her. You recall her saying that he had the gun, a better grip on the gun because she didn't have a good grip on the gun?
No.
Okay. I'll refresh your memory. All right.
All right, good luck
Do
with
you
that.
recall her saying that he had a hold of the trigger and the trigger was pulled? Do you recall that?
In the interview?
Yes.
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to refresh your memory. It's on page 47.
Excuse me, guys.
Okay. When they approach. Talks about holding up the trigger, all that.
Yes, she expressed that he had a hold of the trigger and the trigger was pulled.
Okay. And earlier I asked also that, do you recall her saying that there was a click, like the trigger being pulled?
No, I don't recall the click.
If I may approach, I can refresh your memory here. And I know it's been a while, so I'll be able to.
What page are you referencing? I'm trying to tell her. What page are you referencing?
23.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it was stated in an interview that she said the trigger was pulled and that she heard a click.
She stated that when it first had turned, I heard it click, like the trigger was pulled.
Okay. So, and then at that point, she's saying that the gun is being tried to be pointed back at her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in a scenario like that, with your experience and knowledge, training, if somebody's pointing a gun back at somebody and pulls a trigger, and you hear it click, would that not be aggravated assault or possibly attempted murder?
Your objection.
Obviously, this witness can't speculate to that. It calls for a legal conclusion and is inconsistent with the evidence that's been presented, and we would ask this question.
Your
Your Honor,
response.
I'm talking to him about his interview he had with Miss Payne. I'm asking from his experiences, training, and being a detective, that if a situation as described in this interview, and somebody's pointing a gun and it clicks, what charge could be put on the individual? And I think he's well within the scope of his knowledge to answer that.
Your response,
And
Chief Assistant.
Judge, I think it's assuming it's not a question based on the facts, because the facts are that the defendant had the gun. So asking what happens when someone else is using her gun against her, the gun is in her hand. So I think it's asking a speculation that Mr. Herring would have ever been charged with anything in this case. So I think it's an inappropriate question, and it's misleading to the jury.
And I'm asking from his interview that he had with Miss Payne, where he could ask any question he wants. He heard all of this information. I'm asking from this interview what he did. He conducted. If that occurred, what in his training and knowledge and experience he believes that that could be charged or that would have been classified as.
So the question, as you posed it, does call for a legal conclusion, and so I am going to sustain the objection.
Okay? Now, you stated that that as you sat there and discussed with Miss Payne, and after this interview, you had heard her parents were outside, correct? After the interview, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point, you saw me coming into the precinct, explaining I was her attorney and that I would like to speak with her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you left the room and you allowed us time to speak, correct?
Correct.
Okay. At any point, did anybody listen to what we were saying in that room? I know there was a lot of officers, a lot of detectives around there.
There's an objection.
And we need to approach for this one.
So we won't go any further on me showing up. Did you ever tell Miss Payne during that whole period of time? Let me rephrase. When did you find out that the individual shot had become deceased?
Maybe prior to the interview, because I think that's where Detective Moore responded when I responded to the incident location.
Okay. And did you ever tell Miss Payne that the individual had passed away?
No, not to my recollection. No.
All right. And did you see and recall in your interview when you and Detective Moore are talking to Miss Payne, a lot of times you interrupted her or didn't let her finish her sentence?
There were moments that I did ask questions, direct questions, and she was giving me additional information. I was just trying to make sure I gained clarity.
All right, but when you were asking the question, was she still talking at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And generally, two people are talking at the same time. It's not fair to say that they heard the whole question or heard the whole
you're grasping, man.
conversation.
Correct.
Okay. So, and it was you and Detective Moore asking questions simultaneously, or sometimes she'd start it and you'd catch on and come behind it. But there were questions coming rather quickly, correct?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
Okay. You don't recall just seeing in that interview where you're talking about the door, just specifically the door, and Detective Moore asks a question and you ask a question and she's trying to explain it. You don't recall seeing that just a few minutes ago?
The concern was the quickly, as if it was like rapid fire questioning. But we were asking questions in the interview, allowing Ms. Payne a chance to respond. Also, was asking follow-up questions and giving everybody an opportunity to ask and to respond.
Okay. Now, you did ask that when she pulled in front of Mr. Herring, that you asked, was it like his foot came off the gas or came off the brake and that's why the car moved forward? And she stated that no, it revved up before it took off. Do you recall hearing that?
I do recall her speaking that the vehicle revved.
Okay. And do you recall seeing where the vehicle had made contact with the Jeep?
Yes.
And you did hear her state that it was moving with her, but it stopped when it got to the Jeep?
Yes.
Okay. And you heard her at one point say that she didn't have a good grip on the gun, that he may have had a better grip on the gun?
I do recall her stating that she did not have a good grip.
Okay. And now you stated that there's only one way to load a chamber when it's been holstered, a gun. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen those holsters now that you just pull it down and pop and it's loaded it?
I'm not familiar with that holster, no.
Okay. You haven't seen those? I've seen them on TV, the commercials that are promoting that it's kind of a pow loaded and go. You haven't seen those commercials or seen a holster that has that?
No, sir.
Okay. But you did hear that this particular gun had kind of a two safety mechanism, correct?
Correct.
And that would be based for safety, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I heard that you said when you were asked, she didn't have any training, gun training, and you said professional. You meant professional training or professional gun training, or what did you mean when you said that?
Yeah, she expressed it like during the interview. It was like when I said professional, like actually like attending a gunfire safety course. That's what I was asking in regards to like professionally.
So would that be a state certified, or would it be something you would pay that makes it professional, or
Both.
Okay. And so when you go to these gun ranges and they sit you down and you watch a video and then they tell you a little bit about the gun, that would not be considered gun safety class?
Probably gun safety class for that particular location for the firing range.
But they talk about the safety of the gun, how to hold it.
Yes.
Okay. And throughout this interview, you did hear her say that she had some scratches and some marks on her person.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were they consistent to the story that she was telling you about what happened?
Yes, in regards to grabbing of the shirt.
And of the wrist?
In the wrist, yes.
Okay. And pictures were not taken until after the interview, after it was brought to their attention that she had some marks. Do you recall when Detective Moore decided to take pictures?
Yes.
When did she decide to take pictures?
I think we requested a photographer after our interview.
Okay. And you asked a specific question of, why would you go after this car? Why would you follow this car to get a tag? And she said that she's a people person. She was just trying to help out. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is that a bad thing?
No, sir.
Okay.
I just don't think I'd point out the people person thing, because that she does not appear at all to be a people person. Boy, is that the best thing, Smarmy Scott?
Now, when she was stating that he had something for her, that she was nobody, and was leaning back, did that kind of spark your curiosity of what could have been happening inside that truck?
Yes.
Okay. And if I'm looking at the pictures and everything else, there wasn't really anything that stuck out to you besides that saw. Did you ever see the knife that was in the truck?
No, sir.
Somebody approach her.
Yes.
maybe it's in her. Right. She was nice enough to put our defense and that helped out. Thank you. Alright, so if I can bring to your attention defense exhibit number 25. You stated that looking through the truck, the content, that you never saw that die.
Yes.
Yes, you did see it, or yes, you didn't see it.
In regards, yes, I did not see this in the photos that you presented, but yes, I think that's the cutting tool that we submitted to evidence.
Okay. And did they ever get tested for any fingerprints or DNA?
Not to my recollection, I'm not sure.
And did the trigger of the gun ever get submitted for DNA or fingerprinting?
I'm not sure if that did happen for DNA.
Based on the testimony of whose finger was on the trigger or not, did you feel that was necessary to ask to have them do a DNA analysis or fingerprint analysis?
Not necessarily.
So it wasn't any concern of yours to find out whose finger or whose DNA was on the trigger?
There's a possibility that both hands could have been on the firearm, or it could have been just one.
But wouldn't you want to know the answer to that?
Yes, but I don't, at that particular time, I'm not sure if that's what was requested during the investigation, but, and if it was not requested, because I didn't think it was probably a determining factor.
And I'm not trying to put you on the hook for somebody else. Did you request a fingerprint or DNA?
To my record, I cannot recall specifically, no.
Now, numerous times in her interview, she kept relaying that she was telling him to stop, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she stated that that basically, you know, they were both kind of scuffling back and forth. He was hitting her, she was trying to hit him. Do you recall if there were any visible bruises or any kind of cuts on Mr. Herring's face, body, arms?
No, sir. I not to my recollection, I don't even think I even viewed Mr. Herring because he was already at the hospital.
Okay. Did you ever get a chance to review the pictures of Mr. Herring?
No, sir, not to my recollection.
Did you ever get to review the autopsy?
No, sir.
Now, as you were standing at the site, I noticed at one point you look up and you look at a camera. Do you recall that? Like, you know, the roads have cameras all up and down it.
No, sir, I don't recall looking at a camera.
Okay. Do you recall if there were any cameras around that area?
Maybe traffic cameras on the traffic lights, but they're not for recordings.
Okay. So, defense exhibit number 4. poles and everything around that roadside. Does that appear to be cameras? Cameras?
No, sir, not to be.
I may have a better picture.
Oh, for gosh sake.
All right.
Attorney Tucker, I hate to interrupt you at this time, but I am going to have to give the jurors, I believe. And so it's,
One more question. Sit down. But it's up to the court.
all right, go ahead and put
Okay.
one more question.
All right.
I'm going to give them a break.
Is this a better picture? Where you can see an extension of something that is coming out. And from your experience of being on the road and seeing, the cameras and the flock cameras they use on the road, is that fair to say that that appears to be a camera?
No, sir.
What is he trying to... You're seeing things, aren't you, Attorney Tucker? Look at how perplexed he looks.
And extensions off these right here. Those
Oh my
poles.
gosh. He's going to be asking the same question too many times.
And here.
I wonder if
You're
Hannah...
saying that those are not cameras, that you can't decide from that photo that those are cameras.
To me, they do not look appear to be cameras.
And you're familiar with that road?
Okay, he is.
Yes,
So,
on Roseville Road.
That was, I think, Forest Hardware.
Okay.
And have you ever seen any cameras on that road before?
No, sir, not to any of my recollection.
No further questions?
Okay, thank you. At this time, I am going to give the back to you. It is now 11:40. I just asked you to be back at 12. And
look at how perplexed the DA looks. She's like, what is he asking about cameras? Are we going to have to hear still more about cameras? That's just bonkers.
Okay, before we bring the jurors back in, I want to make everyone aware in the courtroom that it has been brought to my attention that there may have been an attempt to make contact with one of the jurors. I just want to instruct you all that it is not appropriate. I did give those instructions at the beginning of the case. And so no one is to make contact with the jurors. They're here because they're committed to fulfilling their civil duty to sit on this case. And it's not appropriate for anyone to try to make contact with them while they're sitting as jurors on this case. Anyone who tries to do that, part of what I can do is that you will forfeit your right to be in the courtroom among any other measures that the court deems appropriate. So everyone is advised. Thank you. Okay. Counsels, are we ready to proceed?
We are judge.
Okay. Dave, it is you to bring the jurors.
And Judge, while they're coming in, just for timing purposes, we're not going to ask any additional questions and we'll rest.
Okay, so, okay. Thank you, Chief Assistant.
So, you have been instructed, leave the jurors alone. Well, Hannah, now what? I would love to know what Attorney Tucker was trying to get at with the cameras. I don't think it was anything. He's always trying to pull some sort of drama thing. But obviously, I think he's just filling up time. But it's just wasted air as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. You may be seated. Does the state have any redirect for this witness?
Judge, I appreciate the time. Consider that the state has no further questions of this witness and we would ask that he be excused and be allowed to return to North Carolina.
Yes, you're excused. Yes, you're welcome. Safe travels.
And the state has no
this juncture, all the evidence is in, and the court at this point will conduct what is known as our charge conference with counsels in this case, and therefore it is an appropriate time to allow you to have your lunch break. It's now 12:05. I would instruct you to be back by 1:45 p.m. Again, the instructions that I've previously given still apply. And so you're on break at this time. Have a good lunch, and I'll see you back at 1:45. Thank you. Thank you for adhering to the time frames. Oh, before you go, before everyone goes, let me just apprise you of what's going to occur next. Of course, we will do our charge conference so that we're agreed as to what charges you will be given, and then both the state and defense counsel will be able to give you what is known as closing arguments, and then we will release the case to you at that point. So that's what you can anticipate this afternoon. Have a good lunch.